What's going on? Let me make sure this is working. Okay, I think this might be dead. The noise is not bad, so let's take this out. Are you dead or something? Alright, it is dead. What up, what up, what up? I guess we have to charge this one too. Do we? Oh. What's going on? Welcome back. Trying to figure out this microphone thing. I wonder if I could use it plugged in. Let me try that. What's going on? Let me see here. Nah, let's just do it like this. The noise shouldn't be that bad. What's going on? Anyway, hopefully the audio is good. Welcome back. This is Ola coming to you live from my Empire Pro Studios on the road. I'm on the road. I'm waiting for my wife outside. She's going to take a minute. So I decided to go live. Let's talk about married people and their exes. Let's talk about married people and talking to their exes. This is an epidemic, just in case you didn't know. All right, let me just turn this up. This is an epidemic. If you didn't know, it's a lot of people are finding themselves in a very weak place. Okay. I know you're wondering, some of you might just be wondering, why would somebody want to talk to their ex? The X Files is the X file for a reason. But let's talk about it real quick. What's going on, babes? Babes, tell me if you can hear me loud and clear, Jerry. If you can hear me loud and clear, let me know so I can rock on because I have limited time. Let me know. Robert Thompson says, how do you get over someone? That's a good question. How do you get over someone? That's a good question. I will address that as well. Loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about married people and their exes. This is an epidemic at this point. Okay. I personally have been noticing this for, I don't know, a good 15 years. Okay. A good 15 years. Marriage can be rough on people. All right. Shout out to Casper Core. We're talking about married people and their exes. Not the person they're married to, but an ex. Okay. Hit the like button as you're coming in. Tap, double tap, something, you know, so we can let everybody knows that we're live. Okay. Married people and their exes. How do you get over someone? I think I probably, well, I'll address that in a second. Just hit the like button. Thank you. All right. So the easy route is to judge people that are find themselves in this very, very weak zone where they feel the need to talk to an ex. That's the easy route. We can take that route and just start dragging them right now. I'm sure we'll probably get more people in the room if we start dragging people that talk to their exes. And all the people that are actually actively still talking to their ex will probably go hide in a corner somewhere. And and then we'll just be talking to ourselves. Invalid say, I see your booger. Enjoy it. Let me make sure though. No, you probably didn't see anything. You these people, eh? Shout out to Invalid Arguments. Your name says it all. Mm, let me make sure. Don't worry. My booger is on top of my nose. Anyway, let's keep rocking. So the easy route is to judge these people, right? And maybe we should just do that first. Why are you talking to your ex? Don't ever talk to your ex again. Shout out to D Love 3000. Good to see you. Happy Saturday, right? Hey, why is it morning? Why it is morning? It's morning. It is morning where I'm at. It's 8:33 a.m. So I'm sipping on a Dunkin'. I'm not advertising them. The Dunkin' coffee here. How do you live stream without verify your account to live stream? Good question. We just live stream, and my own people just tell me that I'm loud and clear. But we're loud and clear. So again, why are you talking to your ex? Don't ever talk to your ex again. We'll start dishing a bunch of instructions. We could do that if you want to do that, right? Just start talking and preaching to the choir. I think people that talk to their ex, they know that they're doing something wrong. You know, they know they're doing something wrong. So I don't know if it's necessarily helpful to judge them. Um, I know you don't mean. I know you don't mean to. You just want to correct them, right? You just want them to do the right thing, right? Hmm? You just want to do the right thing. Shout out to D Love. Thank you. I appreciate you, right? You just want to do the right thing. So everybody just want to do the right thing. Like, so let's just correct them and sure, we should correct them. You shouldn't talk to your ex. I think that should be straightforward. And I also think maybe it's useful to tell them since they already know. Just a good reminder, right? Now, one of the reasons might be what Thompson is saying, Robert Thompson is saying, it's hard to get over someone. Getting over someone. You shouldn't really be getting married if you haven't gotten over someone. Okay. Um, but I doubt if that's the issue. If you're already married and then now suddenly you feel like you're not getting over the other person, I think it's usually because there's a void. Something is happening with your present relationship, and it's just the easy place to go back to. Like if it's familiar. That person is familiar, so the first thing you think about instead of even if you feel the need to date while you're married, right? If especially if you're a man, why don't you just put your game on and go date other people that are not necessarily your exes? I doubt you can't do that. Why? Because you're a punk. You're going back to familiar familiar places. Your ex. Okay. Ladies, the same thing goes for you. You're talking to your ex because it's easy. Like it's comfortable, it's familiar, right? They're not gonna judge you. You don't have to toast them again. You don't have to woo them. There's a feelings there that you can wake up at any time just by having a conversation. But why? But what created that in the first place? There's root reasons, there's root causes why you feel the need to yield back to an ex. And it's a very weak place to be to feel the need to do that. Even if you don't admit to being weak, you can at least admit that the relationship is weak. The present relationship you're in, the underlying relationship of your marriage is weak. That's why people would have the room to talk to exes in the first place. Okay? Please get rid of Moonless and my Pookie since they're admitting that they're a kid. Please get rid of them. D-Love, thank you. Just get rid of the person. Just block them. Thank you. Kids are not welcomed here. Thank you. All right. So the natural, if there's room for talking to an ex, there's room for talking to an ex. You know, but if the room is such a big, wide thing that needs to be there, thank you, D-Love. Why not just go back to the streets? Just go back to the streets, right? Go back to a bar. Go to talk to a person. Go back to a local event and go actually talk to a person to go on a date with you. Go out on a date and do all the necessary, or even invite them over to your apartment. Well, you don't have an apartment, you have a house where you have a spouse, potentially, more likely than not, children. You have a whole family. You're not going to do that. Why? Because you're weak. You're in a very, very weak place. You're a punk. Okay? I'm not going to act holy here. I've been in that place, weak, very weak place before, where you're struggling. Maybe there's a communication breakdown between you and your partner, and one of the easiest places to go to is to pick up your phone and start chatting up an ex or a familiar face, somebody that you knew there was feelings there or romantic feelings in the past. What do you say? Just say hello. How have you been? Just checking in. Checking in. Why? Why? And you know the funny thing? Most likely that person is also going through something, right? Because up to 75% of marriages are struggling in one shape, form, or the other, which is why I say, hey, don't wing this thing. Learn how it works, particularly not marriage. Learn how attraction works so that if there's a little moment here and there where you fall out of love with your partner, you know exactly what to do. Most people don't do that, all right? Most people don't do that. They just get caught up in their feelings. In fact, women are the worst with this. I know you didn't see that coming. They're the worst with this. They start saying, "But what did he do? What did he do? What do you mean? What did he do? What did he do? He's done a lot." That's the If that's the question you want to get answered, he's done a lot to piss you off. He's done so many things to rub you up the wrong way, of course. How? How do I know? Because you guys are sleeping together, you're having sex. So of course, the person you are sleeping with, that you are living with, have offended that person has offended you. Not just one time, not just two times, not just three times, probably every other day. How? Because they have a booger on their nose in the morning, every morning. Mm? So it's very important that we understand what is going on behind the scenes, psychologically speaking, right? When it comes to this type of issues, okay. But any married persons that's talking to their ex, beyond just that, the fact that they're a clown, I don't want us to focus on that, okay. That's the obvious stuff. But they're in a very weak place. If you're talking to your ex right now, you're in a very weak place, and you're probably going to, not probably, you're going to self-destruct. You're most definitely going to self-destruct. All right. The longer you wait before you fix the underlying issues, the worse it's going to get. And when you're wallowing in bullshit, right? When you're enjoying the familiar pain, you know that it's a painful place to be at. You know that guilt is eating you up. But you call it one day at a time. I do say one day at a time, but I only say that inside of a good marriage. People say, hey, so you've been married for 17 years, so that means that you figured everything out. Like, no, I'm enjoying today, but I'm actually just going to focus on, like, for example, it's fresh today, 8:40, 41 a.m. My wife went into her store, so I'm just waiting for her. She's taking care of a quick business before we move on about our weekend, right? I'm just going to enjoy this moment. I'm not worried about the next 17 years. See, I could say that in this space. I could say one day at a time. But you're living in bullshit and you're saying, well, I'm just taking it one day at a time. When are you going to fix your issues? When? How soon? What do you think? You think the devil is just sitting around? No, you're going to self destruct if you're talking to an ex. Sometimes you might actually be in a place where you want to move on from a marriage. That's not a crime. It happens, It happens. Sometimes people fall out of love completely and they feel the need to move on. That happens. That's life. Okay. Not every marriage is designed to be forever. Not everybody is designed to be in a marriage. In fact, not everybody's going to be married. But I'm talking about you, that you're married, right? You're right now, you're inside of a marriage, right? And instead of you fixing the issues inside of the marriage, the underlying unresolved issues, you're getting comfortable because that ex is soothing your feelings, all right? They tell you all the good things. They remind you of all the good old times when you didn't have any children, right? You're fantasizing about what could have, should have, would have, right? And at the end of the night, you still feel terrible. You have the guilt eating you up, but in the same place, it's a form of pleasure. The secrecy is creating some kind of form of pleasure for you. You know, I'm just here to tell you that it's not that you're a bad person. You're probably just in a very, very weak place. But more importantly, you're going to self destruct if you don't figure out what's going on with you. Okay. So that's for the person that's actually in this behavior presently, right now. If you're doing that, I've always known, uh, I've had, um, I guess, somewhat of an ex that I will speak to earlier on in my marriage. And ladies, I've always been the one to back off. The boundaries that women set are very weak. They're very weak. They're always ready to have the conversation. I don't know if it's because you tell yourself, like, oh, nothing's gonna happen. He's so far away. Mm, it's not a big deal. I don't know if that's what you're telling yourself, uh, until things are too late. You know, I've always been the one to say, no, this is not right. Let me just completely let me find my levels. Even when my marriage was completely in the shit hole, and I wanted to get out in this street and just forget about the marriage, right? There were times that I just be like, you know what, let me find something else. not not the past, not going back to your vomits, not going back to your, to the things you've left in the past. They're in the past for a reason. Okay. And the reason why it is very self-destructive is because you're going to get lost in it, because again, it's familiar places, familiar space, and you're probably going to get lost in it thinking it's innocent until it's too late. Okay. If that person's an ex, they're an ex for a reason. There are 8 billion people in this world. And I'm sharing this with you so you can know that it's a very there's an addiction going on there. It's a very dangerous place to be talking to your ex. So that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation, probably the most important part of the equation, is you found out that your spouse is talking to an ex. Yeah. Like I said, it's easy to pick on the person that's talking to an ex and then tear them apart. The bottom line again is that they're in a weak place. Okay. So you having a direct communication with that person can only go so far. If they don't self-reflect, if they don't come to a place where they're done and they're saying, you know what, I need to fix my issue, there's probably not so much you can do. Especially if you're the one on the receiving end. If you find out that your husband is talking to his ex, or you find out that your wife is talking to her ex, just talking to them is not going to, there's only so much you can do. You know, the, they already know that they're doing the wrong things. If you're dealing with a woman, she's probably going to remind you that you did this, you were wrong, you did this, you cost me, you cost it, so it's going to make matters worse because you're going to overreact to that, because you're going to be like, wait, you went and committed adultery because I made you. So, and this is your wife, and you're going to be like, wait, if 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 I'm capable of making you do all the wrong things, like, What else can you do? Could you could you unalive me in the middle of the night just because I made you? Like, what are you talking about? Women will always find a way to say, "You made me do it." A man, if he's remorseful at all, if it's a situation where he's just trying to run, he's just gonna, it's not gonna say you made me do it, but you know, he's also probably gonna do other type of atrocities. But a man who is been hiding and doing this, he's probably just gonna beg. He's just gonna be hoping that he wakes up out of this middle of this weird ass nightmare. All right. But if you are the person and you just got your wife or your spouse, a lot of that is happening. Your wife, your spouse, your husband, and they're talking to their ex. The first step is to calm down. Okay, calm down, relax. I know that's probably even a triggering word to use to you because you should be angry. You should be all over the place. You should be very upset. I don't think you need my permission to be upset. I don't think so. You know, I don't think you need my permission to be upset. I think you're probably upset. And that's why I want to tell you, just, in that kind of place, you can do the worst things ever. You can actually, um, you might just finish the destruction. We've had stories like that before. Sometimes we hear like a crazy news of husband and wives who unalive themselves, and sometimes you never get to the bottom of the story. How did that happen? How did they get there in the first place? We see these kind of things on the news. The ones in Nigeria will say, "This is why you should not put a gun in the house. This is what is happening in America. They have guns and they are killing themselves." And then you want in Yankee will say, "Ah, these ones, it is the devil. It's the people from the village that's doing them." Hmm. I'm not saying that's always the case. I'm just telling you that you don't know what happened. You don't know what they caught. You don't know what kind of text messages, even maybe a text message is even 10 years old, and you don't know what it did to that person. You don't know what that person saw and they blacked out. So that's not the only thing I meant by self destructing, but that's a form of destruction that we've seen on the news that happens when people go beyond and above to satisfy short-term feelings. We all don't care about anything outside of our feelings. But what I mean by that is to engage emotional intelligence. I don't mean you should just now give yourself permissions to always be operating, like intentionally be giving yourself permission to participate in bad behavior because you have feelings. That's not what you do at your job. Why would you want to do that in your personal romantic life? Just go one day at a time based off of how you feel. Why would you want to? It doesn't make any sense, right? But guess what? That's what married people are doing. They just go by their feelings. They just wing it all along. We'll figure it out one day at a time. And you know that you're in a funky marriage, but you stay there. And then you start talking to an ex because it's soothing your feelings on a day to day basis. Everybody's vices is different. Some people's vices are that, like I think some people who are more introvert to probably participate in this behavior. Some people will just be out there partying every weekend. They're out there flying out. They're flying out every weekend. Their spouse don't know where they are. And they're just one day at a time, hoping their life will just gonna no, something's gonna give, something's gonna break at some point. To what extent? We don't know. That's why I said it's self-destructive. So like I was saying, I digress. First thing first, if you ever caught your your wife, your husband, your spouse of any type, and they were texting their ex, calm down, okay? They're self-destructing. Don't join that bandwagon. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I know you have children together. I know you want to tell the whole world. If it's a man, he probably doesn't want to tell anybody because it's a shameful thing. If it's a woman, She's probably just gonna run away first, mentally or actually physically, trying to hide from herself. Um, this is not the conversation you want to have for the next at least 2 weeks. Okay, the next 2 weeks is particularly going to be about yourself. It's going to be about yourself. It's going to be very tough. It's going to be very, very difficult. Hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. It's going to be a tough moment to go through. You're going to be upset. The point I'm making is that don't leave control in the hands of your state of being upset. It's very easy to do. Depression, upset, angry, trying to get to the bottom of how. Don't do that. The next 1 to 2 weeks, just avoid that. You know, uh, Acknowledge the state where you're in. Devastated, betrayer, you know, your new reality, trust has been destroyed all the way down to ground zero. So the only thing forward now is to build yourself because you're not at rock bottom. Maybe the person that you caught actually is not there yet. Maybe they're still trying to justify the BS. If it's a woman, she's still trying to justify it. If it's a man, he's not trying to justify anything. It's just, society kind of like give him a space to breathe. Um, if it's uh, if it's a mistake, he might be begging. But at the end of the day, it's not the same level of shame in society. Unfortunately, it's not the same thing. Bottom line is that overall, we can call it shameful, right? It's a shameful. But you're feeling a sense of betrayal. You feel like you definitely don't, because rejection, you feel a sense of rejection. So rejection breeds obsession. And so you're not just going to be like, I'm leaving. You probably just want to get to the bottom of a conversation now. It's not going to happen. There's no need to put yourself in that position. You're just going to get angry and angrier and angrier. So let it go. When I say let it go, I mean temporarily. The conversation will be had, especially if there's a kid and there's a marriage in place. You will have a conversation. But I would definitely advise to leave that conversation alone for 1 to 2 weeks, preferably 2 weeks, so that your head can be centered before you have such a conversation. Okay. And the conversation is not exactly what you think it's gonna be. Okay. You're gonna get gaslit. Yeah. Even the man will tell you it's your fault. They might say you haven't been having sex with me, so what do you expect? Well, if you haven't been having sex, let me ask you, what do you expect? Yeah. What do you expect? It's just a question. Let's take our time to answer it. You haven't been intimate with your partner, even if it's their fault, right? And we know that the basic human need is connection. But why just connect with your siblings? Must it be with the Kwekus or Gulas? Uh, Probably. Yes, probably. Probably. All right, hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. All right, so I'll just tell you like this. It definitely take 1 to 2 weeks before you have that conversation. That conversation is going to be more so. Um, we need to talk. You know, because there's a good chance there's silent treatment. There's you know, you're not shying away from it because you listened to me and I told you to back off that conversation for 1 to 2 weeks, right? Take your time off. This doesn't have to be somebody talking to your ex. It could be any form of betrayal, any form of betrayal that can take you out of your senses and you will do the worst. Don't have that conversation for now. Leave it alone. Let it go, because I promise you, it's going to feel like the heaven is going to fall out of the skies. It won't. Okay, it's not gonna happen because your relationship or marriage ended. Mm-mm. It's gonna feel like that, but it's not gonna happen. I'm promising you, it's a fact. It's not going to happen. What you need to do is Just practice your ability to let go of things you can't control, things, circumstances, and people that you cannot control on any given day. You have to let go. Okay? Letting go is the beginning of your power of influence. It's your beginning of your ability to attract what you want in life, maybe for the first time in your life. The only other tactics you've ever used are controlling. They are based off of your own ideology and assumptions that other people have similar interpretations of your ideology. Yes, you might have been in marriage for 14, 12 years with a person, but it's just one day at a time, living in a funk. Okay? Living in a funk. You might have been in a situation like that. Okay? So, I started counseling the person some few weeks back, and we've kind of actually suspected something like this might be going on. He's a guy. Okay? Yeah, these are all real stories, by the way. He's a guy, but recently he caught some text messages between his wife, okay, his wife, I think of 11 years, and her ex. The ex has always been a thorn in the flesh of their marriage, and to say the least, it's pretty bad right now. You know, it's pretty bad right now. So, yeah, he's going through it right now. You know, so one of the questions I always ask you guys that are my clients, intimacy. Now we're not gonna shy away from sex and intimacy. Uh, when was the last time you were intimate? Well, last week, but it was even like it was like she wasn't really into it. I was like, the first conversation I had with him some few weeks ago, you already told me that you already kind of hinted that the sex is not where it's supposed to be. So, but again, we want to know because those are symptoms. All right. We just want to know. You know how you want to know? Are you having headache? Are you want to? But you know the headache is cause there's other things going on inside. But you also still want to know if there's a headache or temperature or similar, right? But she said no. She hasn't had she hasn't really been into it, right? So I said, for how long? She said, well, since forever. Well, what do you mean forever? Well, maybe since 6 months into the marriage. I'm like, whoa, whoa, right? So he hasn't been innocent too. He's had his own fair share of transgressions. Particularly text messages. So anyway, so there's infidelity on both sides, emotional infidelity, as far as we know. Very damaging behavior. Can be very destructive. It's going to take everything to come back from that. It's going to take everything. Um, it's a lot of work, but it's doable. It's a lot of work, but it's doable. First thing, first step, let go. Let go. It's your first step in learning how to attract, in learning how to use influence. Let go. Let go. Controlling tactics. Using the Bible. Telling the person what to do and what they should not be doing. That's controlling tactics. That's another human being, right? You should do it this way. Let me teach you. I'm your husband. It goes a long way before you know it is disconnect. When there's a disconnect, not giving excuses for her. Okay, it's just what happens. I've seen this too many times. It happens all the time. Okay, what happens is she's going to start fantasizing about what could have, should have, would have been with who? The ex. That's the safe zone. Is the easier pain. The ex could have been a freaking asshole. Doesn't matter. It's the coulda, woulda, shoulda zone, right? And he's not the one sleeping with her right now. So maybe it could have been better than what I have now. The grass is greener on the underside. Syndrome is self-destruction. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is green where it is being watered. There's nothing in the streets. Evidence, you had to run back to your ex. Why not just go back into the streets and see? There's really nothing in the streets. And if your ex is still in the streets, even worse, right? If the ex is not is somebody's husband, which is a lot of cases, a lot of married women are engaged with other people's husbands, right? If the ex is still married to another person, even worse. That means you couldn't find anything in the street. You go into somebody else's home. Mm. So it's going to be rough. It's clownish behavior, but that's to say the least. That's the easy part, right? The hard part is that they're just human beings and it's going to take some work. Okay. Should they stay in the marriage together? It depends. Should they stay in the marriage? It depends. It just depends on so many things. It depends on so many factors, right? The first factor being, do they want to stay? If one person only wants to stay, it's not good enough. Two of them has to want to stay. Okay. But if one person wants to stay, but you say you can teach people at a level, well, I can teach them the ability to attract love with or without the same person. The first step to that is letting go. Stop the bleeding immediately. That's the first chapter in our books. D-Love says, MOP, it seems infidelity is harder for men to navigate. It shouldn't bother him now since he's been unfaithful in the past. Hmm. You know, you're right. Shouldn't. Especially the keyword being shouldn't. Right? If we make the keyword shouldn't, you're right. Right? But you know what I found? It's not a matter of gender. Human beings in general. A woman who has been involved in such transgressions in the past hurts more if she's repented and she now found out that you're cheating. cheating, she actually hurts more, even though she cheated before in the past. Listen, these things are happening. It's just that again, women get covered. The whole idea is men cover women, right? So a lot of times you're not hearing the stories of when men cover women in the social media streets. Okay, but the same thing is true across the board. You know, deal of you understand this in Yoruba. Um, how do they say this? Adaniloro ó fi idà kọjá lórí èèyàn, something like kò fẹ́ kán fi idà kọjá lórí òun, something like that. You know, so it's not a gender thing, it's across the board. You know, you've offended them in the past, and you've forgiven them, so now you decided that you should be together, and then the next time you do the same thing to them, they might actually react completely 10,000 times more. Right? It's just how these things work, you know. Why? Because everybody's threshold on what they can actually handle is different, and you can measure it as you can measure apples to oranges, you know. Okay, that's a different way. Adaniloro ofi agbára kọ́ ni, but there's another way about kò fẹ́ kán fi idà kọjá ní orí òun. You know, a person that did something to somebody does not want a sword to go over his own head, his or her own head, something like that. But they basically they react the worst, even though they've committed the same atrocities in the past. Yeah, there's a potential of that. But yeah, for him, you know, it's a matter of betrayal. It's a matter of when you feel betrayal. It's not even something that's, you know, it's not logical. It's not a logical thing in nature. It's an emotional feeling, right? So, and most of us we struggle with self accountability, right? That's across the board. We struggle with self accountability. We'll rather hold other people accountable than self reflect, right? Than look in the mirror and say, hey, what part did I play in this, right? So, you know, no, it's Infidelity is not, it's actually harder for women to navigate, because I think it's harder for women to navigate because a man can can rest. A man can rest on the societal allowance for a man to participate in that kind of behavior. He can just, he can actually just move on and say, okay, I got caught cheating. You want to stay? You don't want to stay? Okay, we move on. He's not going to get judged the same way a woman will get judged. In fact, if we flip the opposite, he will cover her. They're moving on because she cheated, but he's not. He's probably not going to tell the whole world. Partly because he's also protecting himself, his own ego. All right. So it might actually be easier in that respect. So it depends on the context. In that respect, for men to navigate their own transgressions. Right. If I cheated right now and I get caught, I might have a little bit of a short time shame, but it can only go so far. In terms of society level, there's not much shame I have to deal with. For you as a woman, you have to be cold, heartless for you to say, I don't care, I don't care. You might just have to do that only to survive now, you know. So, like I was saying, let go. If you ever caught somebody doing this to yourself, let go of that person. If there's a family involved, of course, a conversation needs to be had. You just need to know what they want to do. Uh, Rejection breeds obsession, so you will want that person to come back home. It doesn't matter what side of the gender. You want them to come back home, you want to fix it. Never mind what everybody is telling themselves on social media. When you get rejected, your first reaction is the opposite reaction, meaning you want to pull that person close, you want to snatch them back to yourself. It's not going to work because action creates resistance, right? So they're going to uh, try to run away even further away, depending on what else was going on in that marriage. So don't even try it. But you can have a conversation. A conversation should always be the first step, right? But just know that talking and having a conversation can only go so far, right? So you can have a conversation and say, "So what are we doing? What do you want to do?" And they shut up and listen. I don't know. Well, the only way we can move forward is if we actually work on this marriage. We need to engage wise counsel. We need to work on the marriage. We need to stop whatever we're doing and work on it. Then the work actually starts. Remember, betrayal has happened. Trust has been destroyed. It's going to take everything to rebuild up. People would rather go and build trust with a stranger than actually work with the person they already know, you know. Now, you can change that rule if there's been rejection. They're probably just very hopeful. The person that got rejected is very hopeful that something can happen. That's just human reaction. That's normal human behavior. You know, in the midst of all of that, disregard all of that. There's actual work that needs to be done in order to not just come back together, but in order to actually have a healthy co-parenting thing going on moving forward. Because a healthy co-parenting is going to take as much work, if not greater work, is going to be so there's no really real way to avoid the work. Okay, you can run away from yourself, but it's like your shadow. It follows you everywhere you go. There's a big ass sun coming from this angle right now. Once it sheds on me right now, you see shadow everywhere, right? You can't run from yourself. Okay, every time you look, there you are again, right? So a lot of patience for self, starting with self, and by extension the patience will be extended to the other person, and then the work. Okay, and then the work. And then before we even start talking about the romance, or possibility of the romance or anything like that, you know. But it doesn't take. I know it seems like it takes overnight to destroy everything in relationship. It's stuff that's been happening over time, that's been getting swept under the rug. So if they haven't been properly intimate for close on 11 years, what do you expect? You know. Oh no, maybe she just doesn't like sex. Remember that conversation? I don't know who it was. I don't think it's one of our regular here, but somebody that's been here around here and on TV's platform before. Oh, some of us are just asexual. You're a liar, most likely. Let me leave room for some exceptions. Okay, most likely you're a liar. That attention is going somewhere. Where is it going? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. Where is that energy going? Who is enjoying that affection from you? Sometimes the affection is not physical, but something is, people want to have conversation around their lack of sex and they want to bring in the rabbit so quick. Relax on the rabbit. What is going on here? Why are you not attraction first? No, I just don't like to lick plates. It's because plates are nasty. You're a liar. What else are you doing when you're too comfortable with that person? Beyond plates, plates licking. You're a liar. You know, something you used to do, suddenly you don't want to do it. But you don't see that there's see finish in that situation. You don't see that you're getting comfortable. You don't see that complacency is a real thing in real life. You can deceive yourself. You can't deceive me. I don't think you can deceive yourself too, but I don't know. But you definitely can deceive me. Okay. If you feel the need to be so loud at defending nonsense and bullshit, there's a good chance you're lying to yourself and you can't lie to me. Okay. Reality is that human beings have certain basic needs. One of them is love and connection. Okay. If it was good enough for you guys to marry each other once upon a time and it wasn't arranged marriage, that means there was some form of attraction. Nobody put a gun to your head to marry you. Okay, 6 months into it, you guys started feeling some level of complacency. You didn't know what you were doing, like the rest of us that we say I do. We didn't know what we were doing. So what do you do? What would you have done? This was your job. You seek help. You go to training. You go to events. You take additional certifications. What do we do in marriage? We're highly disrespectful to marriage, and more importantly, romantic relationship. We just think, hey, it should just happen naturally. Why? Why should it just happen naturally? There's a lot of things that will happen naturally, but there's a lot of things you have to do. We call them levers. We call them leverage points that you can pull on your own side to create the change you're looking for at the overall grand scheme. Do you know what those points are? I mean, you're just going to do one day at a time. I'm just not into you right now. I think I fell out of love. I don't feel the connection. I'm okay. All right, you don't feel the connection. What are you going to do about it? You married this person. No, I'm just going to be a child. I don't want to be an adult today. Let me just go ahead and text my ex. That's what's happening. Okay, it's a very, very weak place to be. It's self-destructive behavior, and yes, ladies, it's gonna eat you up more. Don't put yourself on the same lane as men when it comes to this. If you're an average typical woman, don't do that. You know, I know it's a safe zone, and I know that that person definitely for sure is not perfect. Usually, this happens to controlling men too. So maybe he's been like, well, just do what you're supposed to say. Remember, I've been warning them too on this platform. Say you're gonna get dumped. See, the way you're gonna get dumped, it's not going to be as smooth as, well, I think we should just move on. It's not that simple, right? She might just start texting her ex first before she finally move on. Why? Because I can allow an ordinary woman to control me. Well, how's control going? Okay, not talking to this particular person. I'm just saying, in general, we need to pay attention when somebody is saying and they're saying, "Hey, my needs are not being satisfied. I have a need." You say, "Well, what's your need?" "Well, I don't know." Well, because you don't know, you're just a child. Can you just communicate? And you're not patient enough. This is what it becomes. Well, if they can't communicate, okay, let's seek help. Let's talk to someone. Oftentimes, people they're making this move when it's very late. Sometimes too late. If it's not too late, it's gonna take tremendous amount of work, mental work. You're gonna get frustrated through the work because the other person will gaslight you so much, and it's gonna take everything in you to get through the process. You know, and sometimes it's just too late. So what's the moral of this lesson today? Because I'm gonna round up now. What's the moral of the lesson? Anybody want to chime in? Anybody want to chime in? I'm listening. I'm looking at the chat now. Anybody want to chime in? What's the moral of this lesson? Besides, do not talk to your ex. That's the obvious. You're preaching to the choir if you say that. What can we learn from this? What can men learn from this? What can women learn from this? What can the cheater learn from this? What can the cheatee learn from this? Mm, I like that, base wins. Let go of the past. Hmm. The past is the past, though. That's a good lesson. Let go of the past. Dealer said, "Do me, I do you. God no fix." Hello, that's not a lesson, Dealer. That's being savage. Shout out to Awesome Apps Psych Services. Thank you. I appreciate the $9 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. What do you do me? I do you. See, the problem with that mindset comes in so many variables, variations. All right. Do me, I do you. The do me, I do you mindset. Mhm. What do I start? That's another lesson. D love. That's another lesson. Another day. Let's just leave it alone. You know. Yeah. It's like I'll give you a quick example, right? It's like a kid. God no vex. Okay, God no vex. Okay, God, it still makes sense. Like it's like kids in the hood, right? And then one person brings out, you know, a tutu, a whip, right? And they unalive one kid on the street, right? And then the other ones go back and then run back and say, and then let me give another example. It's like war between two countries, right? Mm. It's like war between do me I do you is the fairness mindset. That's what that is. If you do me I do you. That's the fairness mindset. I already told you, love and war, all is fair already. You know, all is fair already. And the reason why some people argue that no, don't tell me that love is not fair is because they are measuring off of what they can see. There's so much things that we can't see. So when you feel like you've done the other person, how much damages have you done to yourself in that process? Is it the same level? How did you measure that? What metrics did you use? In what dimensions? I'm speaking analytics now. Right? How did you measure how much damages you did to yourself, putting so much energy in doing the other person? That's part of the reasons why they say in love and war all is fair. You feel like that person is being unfair to you, the first thing you should do is make sure you take care of yourself. Like I just said to that gentleman right now, he needs to let go. Let go for the other person. Yeah, they shouldn't have been tampering with their past, but even more so, more importantly, him now, he needs to stay calm. Not because he doesn't want to do me. He can choose to do that and make it worse. Right? How can he do that? He just got cheated on. Like, easy. There's so many ways, especially if this person, I didn't tell you some of the rest of the story. She actually depends on him for her whole livelihood. She has no career, nothing going on. Yeah, usually when you're chatting text back and forth with an ex, usually because you have too much time in your hands too. There's unnecessary time and space for bad behavior, right? Yeah, but because if you're a woman or a man on a purpose, there's very little time left for bullshit. That's just true in general, you know. So the real question to D-Love is, did you measure how much you, I was getting a call, but let me see if I can circle around to go get her. She's calling me now. I'm gonna round up, guys. Did you measure how much damage you did to yourself? Shout out to Marriott. I'm rounding up right now. Let's just call it a round. All right. Shout out to everybody. I'll see you guys later on. All right. Yeah, I'll probably try to come back later on. Okay. I gotta pick her up right now, and then. But let me know. Share this. Hit the like button. Share. Subscribe. Turn up your notifications. Yeah, she's calling me. I'm gonna make sure she's gonna say hello. Why? I'm done. Come on. Come on. Yeah. She's trying to. No problem. You want to say hello before I round this up? I'm live. I'm live. Say hello to them before I'm live on the channel. We're rounding up right now. Hello. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys. Hey, quick shout out to that person again. Awesome apps. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. All right. We'll see you guys later on. Talk soon. Take care. Help me share, like, and subscribe. Okay. Bye now. Oh yeah, if you need help, look in the description box. The link to book sessions with me are there. Okay. Take care. Bye now.